Welcome to making blinking puppet eyes based on Adam Kreutinger's design. I will be using a base head that I had already created, and I'm just going to be making a separate blinking eyes and attaching it onto this skull that I already had. Step 1. Fix hole into center of 2 styrofoam balls. The styrofoam balls already come with a seal around the edge, so it's really easy to have at least one coherent line around the edge of it. I started by finding a wooden skewer and puncturing a hole straight down as best as I could. Once I was about halfway through, I got a ruler to start drawing a perpendicular line to that seam, going from the hole that I had punctured all the way to the other edge. Once I had felt like I had gone to the other side, I did the same thing and started skewering from the opposite end. This way it ensured that I was having the best chance to make an absolute straight line from one end of the styrofoam ball to the other. Having consistent perpendicular lines really helps make sure that each of the eyeballs is even and that the blinking is consistent for each eye. Unfortunately, the lighting is a little bright, so you can't quite see what I'm trying to point at, which is the drawn line I have perpendicular to the seam of the styrofoam ball, marking where then I decided to puncture the hole. And there we go. We've got 2 eyeballs with 2 holes in them. Step 2. Thread wire through, fixing a bent nose piece in the center. Select a long piece of wire, making sure you have plenty of extra. You can always cut it shorter if you need, but it's harder to reattach extra wire. Begin by bending it in half. You want to create what will eventually be the dowel piece that your finger will be maneuvering up and down to create the blinking effect. So make sure it is big enough for a finger or multiple fingers to move up and down. Also separated enough to give the eyes distance. Then thread each eyeball onto either end. Step 3. Find placement along the puppet head and cut foam. Pencil or pen to draw along, finding best where it would fit. Begin to safely cut the area around. It's a bit tricky if it is already hot glued together because those areas can be tougher to cut through. Step 4. Bend wire around the eyes to create brows. There's multiple methods to do this. You can have one straight brow, unibrow going across the eyes, or like I've done in this video, I've done a bent eyebrow around each eye, giving it a bit more dynamic. Make sure there's plenty of room in between the wire and the eyeball, that the wire does not puncture the styrofoam, and that there's enough room for the fabric to go around the wire and not touch the eyeball itself. And there you go. You could, of course, decorate the styrofoam balls, eyeballs way before this, but this seemed like a good time to draw in the eyeballs themselves now. Of course, this is just a demo, so I just did a quick Sharpie just to at least have an idea of what the eyes would look like. If this was my final project, I probably would have done a lot more detailing and color and used paints rather than a marker. Step 5. Glue or sew fabric brows on. Using hot glue, I began to glue on the fabric onto the metal wire frame of the brows themselves, using my fingers very carefully or using pliers, something metal and heat safe, to apply pressure to the fabric. You can see now why I have many 2-degree burns all over my hands, but please use hot glue safety. And look at those cool eyeballs blinking and spinning around. You'll notice they have plenty of movement. That's really what you want to see, that there's plenty of flexibility. And I added some fun extra fox fur to really give them those bushy eyebrow feel. This is of course just extra scraps I had in my storage, but you can use any type of fabric that you have, any type of felt. Trimming up the brows just so they are nice and clear. Number 6 and the final step, glue eyeballs onto the head securely and fit excess fabric to the head as well. You'll want to be careful when gluing the eyeballs onto the heads themselves, as they will melt when coming into contact with heat. The best tip I found was to apply the hot glue to the head itself, wait about 30 seconds, and then apply the eyeball. It still allows the glue to become tacky and stick without completely melting the eyeball, which you'll notice in some of these videos. I learned that on the right eyeball, but not quite the left. Trim up the edges. Don't worry too much about all the excess, because if I went on to the final step of completing this puppet, the whole encasing would be covered in extra felt, so none of these edges we would see. And there we go. We've got ourselves a furry eyebrowed, frog-looking, blinking puppet man.